It starts quietly, almost invisibly. You say sorry before anyone accuses you. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the message. Sorry for taking up space. Sometimes no one even noticed a problem, but your body already did. This is how apologizing becomes a reflex, and how your nervous system learns that existing comes with guilt. It usually begins early, not always with shouting or cruelty. Sometimes the environment is calm. To calm, you're a child in a room where emotions are inconvenient, with a parent who's stressed but never says it out loud, a caregiver who shuts down when feelings get messy, a household where conflict doesn't explode but quietly disappears. And you notice the sighs, the tightened jaw, the sudden silence. So you start monitoring yourself. Did I say something wrong? Was I too loud, too slow, too emotional? And instead of asking, you apologize, not because you understand what you did, but because apology restores calm. Psychologists call this hypervigilance, the nervous system's ability to scan for threat before it appears, and often it pairs with parentification when a child becomes responsible for managing adult emotions. But to you, it doesn't feel clinical. It feels like love. You learned something subtle and dangerous. If I apologize first, no one will leave. If I take the blame, things stay peaceful. If I smooth things over, I stay connected. So you adapt. This wasn't weakness. This was intelligence. Your nervous system did the math early. Apology equals safety. Silence equals survival. Self-erasure equals belonging, and the world reinforces it. You're so polite. You're so considerate. You're very mature for your age. No one sees the cost, because every apology you made for existing taught you that your presence was a burden, that your needs disrupted harmony, that love required preemptive guilt. And slowly, you internalized the belief that something about you is always a little too much. This is what no one tells you about excessive apologizing. It's not about manners, it's about attachment. You weren't taught how to take up space, you were taught how to minimize it. As an adult, it doesn't look like trauma. It looks like politeness, empathy, emotional intelligence. You apologize when someone bumps into you. You apologize before asking a question. You apologize for having feelings. You might even say sorry when you're the one being hurt. At work, you soften every request. In relationships, you take responsibility for moods that aren't yours. In friendships, you preemptively explain yourself so no one misunderstands. You might think you're just considerate, but here's the truth. You might be using apology as a shield, a way to control outcomes, a way to prevent rejection before it happens. This is not a personality trait. This is a coping strategy. What saved you then is exhausting you now. You think you're kind, but really you're afraid of being perceived as difficult. You think you're humble, but really you're terrified of taking up space. You think you're emotionally mature, but really you never learned that your needs are allowed. This is the invisible cage. Because when love felt conditional early, your nervous system learned that harmony must be maintained at all costs. So you over-own, over-explain, over-apologize. You mistake guilt for responsibility, self-blame for safety, shrinking for connection. And there's a fantasy you don't talk about, that one day someone will say, you don't have to apologize, that wasn't your fault. You're allowed to be here. That someone will finally notice how careful you are, how much you hold, how little space you take. But here's the truth. No one is coming to rescue the child who learned to apologize to survive, because the world keeps rewarding you for your self-sabotage, and the cost shows up quietly. In resentment you can't name, in exhaustion that never fully lifts, in the strange anxiety you feel when someone tells you you did nothing wrong. This is the psychology of people who apologize too much. You're not overly sensitive, you're over-adapted. So what do you do with this? Because part of you might want to say, I'm just polite, or I don't want to be a burden but stay. Because this isn't about stopping apologies. It's about understanding why your body believes you need them. And here's where it gets interesting. Healing doesn't start with fixing this behavior. It starts with witnessing, with noticing the moment your chest tightens before you say sorry, with asking what you're afraid will happen if you don't. This work asks you to feel the grief you never had time to feel, because the child who apologized too much never got to be messy, never got to be inconvenient, never got to be upset without consequences. This is where shadow work begins, not with affirmations or confidence hacks, but with grief for the times you blamed yourself for other people. Discomfort, grief for the safety you tried to buy with politeness, grief for the voice you swallowed to keep the peace. That grief isn't weakness, it's thawing. And slowly, things begin to shift. You start noticing when sorry wants to come out automatically. You pause, you breathe, you ask yourself new questions. Am I actually at fault? Or am I just anxious? Am I apologizing to connect or to disappear? What would happen if I stayed present without shrinking? You practice new permission statements. I didn't do anything wrong. I can exist without apologizing. My needs don't require an apology. This work will disrupt some relationships because people who benefited from your silence may feel uncomfortable when you stop blaming yourself. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means the system is changing. This is how you stop confusing guilt with love. This is how you stop mistaking anxiety for empathy. This is how you learn that closeness doesn't require self-erasure. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is that moment when you turn toward the child inside you and say, "You didn't need to apologize to be safe. You weren't wrong for existing. You were just a child." If this resonated, that part of you just felt seen. You're not alone in this pattern. Share in the comments what you learned to apologize for growing up. Someone reading it may finally understand themselves more clearly. And if you want to keep doing this work slowly and honestly, subscribe to Still Patterns. This is a space for the parts of you that were never allowed to take up space. Let's go back to the beginning. The version of you who learned to say sorry, to stay connected. They didn't choose that. They had no choice. But you do now. You get to speak without apologizing. You get to take up space without guilt. You get to exist without earning permission. You're not rude, you're not selfish, you're not broken. You're becoming whole. And maybe for the first time, you're learning what it feels like to be here without shrinking first. This is Still Patterns.